True Moneyball is finally possible on FC26. Sabermetrics have been a massive part of football for about 15 years now, and teams in every league have tried to use them. It helped Brentford move from League 2 to the Premier League, but as Barnsley fans will tell you, is something that is actually quite hard to get right long term. It's where a top team would buy the best player available for their position, for example, City with Haaland or Madrid with Bellingham, but you instead would buy a cheaper player with maybe less goals per season, but someone who might have a better headed goals per 90 ratio, or a better shot conversion when the ball's inside the box. Overall, they're probably a worse player, but for your system, they're just as good, if not better. Does that sound like fun? If so, let's have a look at how we can actually implement this entire philosophy and make your next career mode feel totally different. We start, as every single good career mode does, on the main menu. Before we can get into statistically improving the squad, we first of all need to know who we can improve. For this video example, we're going to analyse this Gensler-Berge squad, which is a squad I don't know anything about. But the first place we need to look is actually on the tactics page, and you'll probably be spending quite a lot of time in here if you're doing Moneyball correctly. So the most important thing to know is that you should now not be relying on overall ratings to tell the full story about a squad. Attributes are now king, with overall ratings just being an outdated view of how good a player is in EA's view. The best striker for your team might be 5 overall lower than your current starter, but to figure out if that's the case, the first thing we actually need to do is go over onto the main tactics page and decide how we're going to play. In this formation, this Turkish team by default has 2 deep-lying playmakers. That role relies on above average passing, vision and dribbling for a defensive midfielder, and doesn't really need to be good at tackling. It's also a decent hint that this team really likes to keep possession, but do we have that kind of player? Well, in these two, we kind of do actually. So the next thing we need to do now is move on to the other positions in the squad that are really important. For this formation, it's the attacking midfielder, the centre backs and the striker that I would analyse next. Eventually, you would need to do this for every single position to identify which attributes are needed in each role. For a deep-lying playmaker, passing. For a winger, probably pace, agility and dribbling. For a ball-playing defender, passing, pace and strength. And I'd recommend writing 3 to 5 attributes down that are important for your roles in your phone's notes app or on some paper so that they're quite easy to keep track of. Most of them are fairly easy to sort of comprehend. Wide playmakers will need less pace but better positioning, stuff like that, and you'll get a hang of this super quickly. By using these attributes, it is time to build the best team that you can for the vision that are already in your squad. Pre-season is a great time to do this, but of course in live start points you might have to waste a league game or two by playing worse players for a couple of matches. Squad Hub is a good place to find holes of course, but actually playing the game is where you're going to find the real problems. This is where Moneyball comes in, because it's really important to try and play how your vision wants you to play. If you've got high pressing on in here, then you need to trigger a few team presses. If you're playing tiki-taka, then see if you can do a 20 passing move that eventually leads to a shot. Hit long balls if you're playing kick and rush, and it won't take long to figure out who feels bad and who's actually pretty good for the tactic you're trying to use. After your first game, or ideally after each of your first 3 pre-season games, it is also really important to check the stats page of your players right here. In here you can see so many stats that are unfortunately not tracked anywhere else in the game. Expected goals, the amount of battles they win, both on the floor and in the air, the amount of saves your goalkeeper makes for easy shots, things like that are so important, but are actually the metrics that are used in real life for Moneyball and Sabermetrics. For the first few games, you should look at the vitals of your team. Are your playmakers making good passes consistently? Are your defenders winning the majority of battles? Without those things, you're probably going to struggle no matter who you sign. Even if your attacking midfielder gets a 10 out of 10 rating and he gets a couple of assists, looking in here might show you that they're actually the weak point, because it's your striker who's really making the goals because he's running past 3 players with his pace and scoring in the top corner. So I'm sure by now you have a pretty good idea about who needs replacing, but this will confirm it. For the Turkish team that I'm playing as, this was the case because the attacking midfielder was playing really well, but statistically, he was actually playing pretty badly. His through ball percentage was quite low, which either means we were trying to thread them through when they weren't on, or he doesn't have the ability to play them, and he wasn't making much expected assists. This means we should probably scout for an improvement here, someone who can thread passes through, because our striker was clinical and rapid, which we proved by playing the matches. So now it's time to set up scouting to find the right players. Playstyles are massive for Moneyball this year, and we've been able to scout via them since FC25. In our example, it's pretty easy to figure out the improvements we need to make. Our attacking midfielder's passing is okay, but he has low vision and doesn't have the incisive passes playstyle. If we can find someone with short passing, vision and composure over 75, while maybe also having that playstyle, they'll make the team stronger, no matter if they are 30 pace, they're 5'11", really a CDM playing out of possession, and a 60 overall. So now we actually do the scouting, and if you prefer, you can go on websites like my partner site FC Tools Hub and search for players who match those attributes. I prefer just to rely on my scouts in the game though, it makes it a bit tougher and a bit more realistic. We got quite a few returned players, but this is another area of Moneyball that you really do have to be careful with. The whole point of Moneyball is to build the best squad for the lowest price. This means scouting in the right places and only spending money when you absolutely need to. For another one of the positions we needed to strengthen, we saw this guy, and he looked ideal. He plays in the Championship, and then you see his wage. £20,000 is a lot, when this other player here is earning about a quarter of that, and is only slightly worse than them. Brighton are amazing at this part of the Moneyball system. Maitoma, Caicedo, Baleba and Estupiñán were never on huge wages for the Seagulls. Instead, they found players who were amazing at one specific area in a pretty low down league, so they didn't have big wage demands, trained them in a few other areas, and then got top 10 players who were effectively playing on upper end Championship wages. Back to our example though. Once we've picked out the right attacking midfielder, we just have to move on to the next position and just keep reloading and repeating the entire process. For us, this was probably right midfielder, as we've seen, and we just do the same thing. We've noticed that our winger is fast but not rapid, so we can either look for someone with better key stats or a playstyle that's going to improve things. For a right midfielder, you probably want rapid or quick step, and it's actually quite easy to find someone with both. We find a better player who actually has better stats and a higher overall this time, and that is Moneyball. Let's be honest, there are only so many times you can sign the entire Mexican national team as a free agent, but maybe for your next save, Harry Maguire's slabhead is the right man to lead you to glory. I love the idea of picking up a team of misfits that are ignored by big clubs and making something worthwhile. My own club, Nottingham Forest, did it last year with Alanga and Hudson-Odoi, both being really cheap pickups and not wanted players from bigger clubs, and turned them into the best counter-attacking footballers in the Premier League. When they dropped the Moneyball idea this season to buy high value players instead, performances have dropped, team cohesion has basically disappeared, and there's no specific tactic. So hopefully I've introduced Moneyball to you in an easy to understand way. But if you've got any questions, then head over to our Discord that's in the comments below and tag me in your posts. If you want a really hard challenge to try Moneyball with to start off with, see how lowly you can create a title winning team in the Premier League. I think with the right players, a 74 rated team could probably be good enough, but I think you've got the talent to go even lower. But thank you for watching this video about Moneyball on FC26. I've also made videos about how to do it on FC24 and FC25. If you're playing an older game or you want a few more tips or some save ideas, I included those in the videos a couple of years ago. But thank you so much for watching. I put that video on screen right now. I'll see you soon. Cheers and goodbye.